Remember how you learned about how the federal government worked back in the day? Remember those Schoolhouse Rock videos where, you know, people in Congress would debate things in committee meetings and then vote on it, and then maybe the president would sign it into law, and that's how we did things in this country? Not anymore. No, the administrators stayed in the executive branch of the government under Joe Biden. They just write the law, do things, whatever they want. They're trying to enact the Green New Deal by putting in new policies and forcing companies and individuals to jump through hoops to satisfy their climate agenda. And no one's voted on it. They're just doing it. Joining us right now to flesh this out is the former chief of staff of the EPA, now visiting fellow at Heritage, senior policy analyst and Independent Women's Forum. My God, she's got a lot of jobs. She's Mandy Gunasekara. God, I was all set to do it right too, Mandy. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Well, I saw this story, and please, if I got that wrong, let me know. But I saw the story where the administration is now basically imposing all of these new climate policies on businesses who want to do work for the federal government. Did any of this get approved by Congress? Does it have to be approved by Congress?
No, it doesn't. They have a fair amount of latitude, especially when it comes to setting separate standards for federal contractors. But you're exactly right to point out that the majority of the climate agenda is being implemented by going around Congress and avoiding the direct role of the American people having a say. And that's because most people don't support these wasteful policies that rack up the costs but don't actually lend themselves to an improved environment on emissions or otherwise. So they're using latitude they have to force federal contractors to expend lots of money complying with standards that at the end of the day aren't going to do a lot in terms of changing the environment for the better.
Yeah, and it's estimated this is going to cost mostly small businesses and mid-sized businesses who do work for the federal government. It's going to cost them upwards to $600 billion. Of course, those costs get passed on to us. So this is a tax on the American people. And but this is the public comment period. That's why we're commenting on it publicly, because theoretically, if there's enough pushback on this, the administration could actually change this, couldn't they?
They could if they wanted to listen. But as we've seen with this administration, they are led by politics and they already know the outcome they want. They're just checking the box in terms of administrative process requirements that they have to get through to make it a final action. But that being the case, it's still important to push back, to point out the extra billion-dollar cost that will be passed on. And remember, this is federal contractors, so this is all taxpayer money that we're talking about. This administration has imposed more hidden taxes than any other administration, and they keep doing it in the name of climate change. But again, it's not going to have any serious impact on the environment, and it's not going to create any purported good other than political good for the Democrats that have sold out to extreme climate lobby.
So let's say I'm a smaller mid-sized business and I have a contract with, you know, the Department of Defense or anywhere in the federal government, and it's time for me to renew and put in a bid to get that business. What kind of thing do I have to prove to them in terms of my greenhouse gases or my climate footprint? What kind of things do I now have to enable in my company to satisfy what the Biden administration demands?
Well, you're going to have to incorporate some pretty extensive and expensive reporting accounting metrics. So you're going to have to add in pages and pages of new reporting showing how you are tracking your greenhouse gas emissions in everything that you do, from going to the office, the electricity you use, to if there's any third-party contractors involved, their relative footprint as well. And this may not sound like that big of a deal, but it is, because it's very expensive. And on small businesses, what it's really going to do is force a lot of them out of the equation, making the whole process of going after federal contracts less competitive, making costs go up, because when you don't have that competition, you're just going to have the big guys come in, scoop up all of that business and put the smaller guys out of business.
That's truly what's behind all of this. All these big corporations that do business with the federal government, they can afford to do this. They've already got these things in place, the ESG stuff that's been pushed on them by a bunch of New York and international banks. And they, of course, they hire lobbyists to be able to achieve this sort of thing because it kills the competition. That's really part of what's going on behind the scenes here in Washington, D.C., isn't it?
Yes, Larry. And I saw that firsthand when I was chief of staff at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. You have these large corporations come in and they are actually advocating for more regulation because it does the dirty work of putting their competition out of business
Yeah,
for them.
yeah.
They don't have to improve the technology or improve what they're selling. They just need to use the power of the federal government and the cost affiliated with that to squeeze out their competition. And you see it all the time. And that's what's going on right here, right now.
It exposes the lie that conservatives are pro-big business. We're pro-free market is what we are. And we're pro-getting the government out of businesses' way. Sometimes that benefits big businesses. But listen, these days, big business, they enjoy federal regulations just as much as the government does because, as you said, it does the dirty work. It gets rid of their competition.
Yeah, and you think about the type of leadership that a lot of these corporations have. They align with the woke ideology of the left,
Yeah.
which is why, as you mentioned earlier, ESG, environmental, social, and governance standards have really taken off. They're pushing everything from ridiculous net zero commitments to forcing transgenderism and critical race theory training among their employees. So, yeah, the Republican Party doesn't do the bidding of big business. We do the bidding of creating freer markets and let the competition play out the way competition does.
Yeah.
But it's big businesses trying to use the role of the federal government to squeeze out competition without doing anything else.
And let's be clear, it's the Biden administration pushing through AOC's Green New Deal and all the stuff that they could never get the votes for in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, just pushing it through by fiat at the executive branch. Also, this forces small business, mid-sized businesses to lawyer up. They have to hire lawyers to even figure out what these regulations are. They hire consultants. And I want to point out, there are two individuals in this town who make a lot of money as those kind of consultants. One of them is named Hunter Biden, the son of the president. The other is named Chris Hines. He's the son of John Kerry. He's the climate czar, and he's the one who's been pushing this stuff too.
Yeah, there's an overpaid consultant class in Washington, D.C. that is pushing a lot of these problematic policies that cause very serious harm to the rest of the American people. And that's why this administration tries to go around Congress and push out the American people's voice in implementing these very disastrous and unpopular, rightfully unpopular policies, because no one's going to get on board with higher costs and less and a lower standard of products, whether it's from the federal contracting side or elsewhere.
And again, it won't make a difference in the climate. And I assure you, India and China, they're not doing anything like this. They're going, please, they open a new coal plant every week, I think. Mandy, real fast, we did say this is the public comment period. How do people voice their public comment on this? How can they have their voice heard?
Yeah, you can go to federalregister.gov and you can search the latest actions coming from the GSA, that's the agency that has oversight of federal contracting. So you can either Google our conversation, or Larry, what I can do is send a link, and when we tweet out the show later, you can include that so folks can have access to the portal to issue written comments by the deadline.
Absolutely, we will. We'll have that link. We'll try to get it up at Salem News Channel as well when people watch this on demand, or we'll do it on the YouTube channel as well. The Trump EPA, they got rid of a lot of regulations that helped streamline the economy. It helped make the economy boom during those 4 years. And Mandy Gunasekara, chief of staff of EPA at the time, she was getting it done then, and she's getting it done now. Thank you, Mandy. Great to talk with you. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.